Welcome to the Clan Forbes Heritage Sites in Edinburgh. The first stop, of course, has to be the Scottish National Gallery and the Scottish National Portrait Gallery, which is in Newtown on Queen Street. Wonderful works there. There are at least three artists of note there. The pencil artist, Sir William Forbes Pitsligo, 6th Baronet, the oil painter, Anne Forbes, and photographer John Forbes White. Now, the challenge is there are over 300 works of art that are featuring the members of House of Forbes. Two of the most notable are these two oil paintings by Sir Henry Raeburn, who is a very famous portraiture artist. These are the two sons of Sir William Pitsligo, 7th Baronet. On the left, you see William Stewart Forbes, age 7. Unfortunately, he died at age 24, so the title was inherited by his brother on the right, Sir John Stewart Forbes, 8th Baronet. He was age 5. Aren't those beautiful? We tracked down one of them at the museum. Now, not all of the artwork is available on display, but I'll tell you, you can look for where they are online, or they have wonderful staff who will look up any of these works of art for you. So that's what we do. When Tony, my husband, and I went there, they were wonderful to us. And of course, you have to visit the National Museums of Scotland. There are at least 4 items there you'll have to take a look at. The first is the Monymusk Reliquary. It was once used for housing relics of saints and may have been fashioned in the early 8th century, and it was preserved at Monymusk House. Middle on the top is the Fettercairn jewel of Lord Pitsligo. It's from the 16th century and is from a private collection of the Forbes of Fettercairn. And they are descended from Sir William Forbes, brother of Alexander Forbes, First Lord Forbes. On the right and the top is the Craigievar Mazer. This was made in Edinburgh in 1591 and is engraved with the arms of Sir William Forbes, 1st Baronet of Craigievar. If you go to, down below you see cannons that were once mounted on the ramparts of Tahun Castle. I know several of you have been to Tahun Castle. If you could imagine these pointing out through the holes in the front of the castle, but they now are resting at the National Museums of Scotland. Of course, if you go to Edinburgh, you will go to the Palace of Holyrood. One thing that I missed, which I can't believe I did, was this amazing oil painting by John Petty. It's entitled Bonnie Prince Charlie Entering the Ballroom at Holyrood House. Look on the right. That's a Forbes tartan. On the left is Cameron Lochiel. In the middle, of course, is Charles Edward Stewart, popularly known as Bonnie Prince Charlie. And on the right is Alexander Forbes, 4th Lord Pitsligo. You can tell because of his age and the tartan that he's wearing. A lot of history around Lord Pitsligo. If you're in Newtown, you can't miss Church of St. John the Apostle, the Scottish Kirk or Church. It's right in the corner of Princess Street and Lothian Road. It's an amazing edifice. Now, the leaders responsible for funding and building the church were the sons of Sir William Forbes Pitsligo, 6th Baronet. They were Sir William Forbes, 7th Baronet, and then John Hay Forbes. Sir William was a banker. John Hay Forbes was a judge. They installed 4 of the 10 amazing stained glass windows. You see that Sir William created and funded the one on the left. His sister Jane married another Colin. Somehow Forbeses tend to gravitate toward Collins. Colin and Jane Forbes Mackenzie of Portmore. Charles Hay Forbes was a brother of Sir William, and he was the nephew of Sir John Hay, 6th Baronet. That's why his middle name was Hay. And then George Forbes was another brother of Sir William Forbes Pitsligo, 7th Baronet, and he had married Mary Hay, the sister of Sir John Hay, 6th Baronet. So you've got a lot of families mingling, but this is an amazing site. I also did a video of this on the YouTube channel, and the stained glass windows are simply amazing. Another amazing memorial is this plaque. to John Stuart Forbes, who actually died at the Battle of Little Bighorn. In 1866, he legally changed his name of Forbes to Stuart Forbes in honor of his mother's family. He actually had to leave Scotland to avoid scandal. We're not quite sure what the scandal was. So he assumed the last name of his brother-in-law, John Stuart Highley, and joined Company E of the 7th United States Cavalry. He fought and died under the command of General George Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn on June 25th, 1876. And he is memorialized here in this plaque. He's also listed on the 7th Cavalry Monument at the Little Bighorn battlefield, but under his assumed name of J.S. Highley. Also in the kirkyard of the church, you can see down below on the left, George Forbes is buried there, as are many other Forbeses. We were fortunate to have a caretaker of the church beat back some of the bushes, and we saw some of the other memorials to the family members right there at the church. Another amazing site is the old Parliament House, which is housing the Court of Sessions. It's off the Royal Mile beside St. Giles Cathedral. Inside is memorial to Duncan Forbes of Culloden. He was the Lord President of the Court of Sessions. There's an oil painting of him there. There's also a very dramatic statue, which I took for the cover of the book, Forbes, A Story of Scotland. And in the back of the hall, you see in the lower left corner, you see the coat of arms of Forbes of Culloden. It has the 3 bear's heads with 3 unicorns. Very stunning. Next up, St. Giles Cathedral. You've probably walked by it if you've been to Edinburgh many, many times. But did you notice one of the statues over the west face of the cathedral, Bishop Forbes? While in Edinburgh for the Scottish coronation, King Charles heard William Forbes preach at Holyrood House on principles that are more aligned with the Episcopalian doctrines of the Anglican Church rather than the Presbyterian values of the Scottish Kirk. Charles was so impressed that he carved out a brand new diocese of Edinburgh from the Archdiocese of St. Andrews and raised the St. Giles Kirk to status of cathedral and made Forbes the first bishop. So the only reason why we have a cathedral in Edinburgh is because of Bishop Forbes. It was only a kirk, but he raised it to a cathedral and made it a diocese. The kirk behind Greyfriars Bobby is, of course, Greyfriars Kirk, and in there are some some memorials to many people you already know. On the left is Duncan Forbes of Culloden. That's where he was buried. Also, you'll see what's called an enclosed laird. I mentioned that in our projects. You can just barely see the name Sir William Forbes in the top of the pediment. William Forbes of Monmouth actually restored the Pitsligo inheritance after the Jacobite forfeiture. He managed the Scottish estates and continued the influential Forbes banking and landowning legacy. And below him is the and below him is the tomb of his son, the 18th Lord. That's Sir John Hepburn Stuart Forbes. Now back to the Royal Mile, Canongate Churchyard. This is where George Stuart Forbes of Brucks is buried. He was an officer in the 78th Highlanders. He was a major. He maintained the Brucks estate in Strathdon, and he was also the father of Sir Charles Stuart Forbes of Monmouth Pitsligo, 9th Baronet. He became the 9th Baronet after the death of Sir John Hepburn Stuart Forbes, who was the 8th Baronet. So that was his cousin. So those are some of the highlights of the Clan Forbes heritage sites in Edinburgh.